The Right Side with Doug Billings.
Hi, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to The Right Side. Doug Billings with you today, as always, from the smack dab middle of the fruited plain. Hope you're having a great day today. Ladies and gentlemen, markets move before politics do, and borders start well before they reach our shores. And power doesn't live in Washington, D.C., ladies and gentlemen. It lives in what people believe. If you want to understand what really holds a republic together, you are in the right spot. You're on the right side, ladies and gentlemen. The Right Side with Doug Billings is now upon you. Are you ready? Let's go.
The Right Side with Doug Billings.
Hey everybody, my name is General Mike Flynn, and I'm here to do a big shout out for my great friend and one of the best in the business, Mr. Doug Billings. Right Side with Doug Billings, Right Side with Doug Billings. Doug is the future of the airwaves when it comes to independent broadcasters and podcasters. He is the new Rush Limbaugh. He's exactly what America needs right now, looking for honesty, looking for wisdom, looking for truth, looking for patriotism. Listen to Doug Billings at Right Side with Doug Billings. God bless you and God bless America, and thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are winning. We're winning, winning, winning. Welcome to The Right Side with Doug Billings. Are you ready?
We are not liberal snowflakes who melt away in the face of tragedy, adversity, and challenge. We are a covenant nation under God, and his divine providence is not dead and it's not gone. It is living within each and every one of you. And you will bring it to life in such a way that the world has never seen before. We never back down. We never give up. We march forward.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, legitimacy and leverage. What really holds a republic together? Let me start somewhere that most headlines never go. They never touch these topics. They don't talk about them in the ways that we do. Money, law, and meaning, okay? Now, three invisible systems that hold our country up. In fact, they hold every country up. When those three work together, people will build, they will invest, and they will plan for the future. Absolutely so, without a doubt. And when they drift apart, people begin to hedge. They retreat and they protect. And today I'm going to talk about how those systems signal to each other and how they signal really to the world, because whether a republic still believes in itself is part of that message. And you'd better believe that other nations watch America with regards to the signals that she sends, because markets listen and foreign governments listen. And citizens feel the consequences long before any politician can ever explain them to us. So let me give you one simple truth as we start off today. Markets don't trade facts. Think about this. Markets trade expectations, 100%, and expectations are built on credibility. When you see gold rise and you see the dollar wobble a bit, you're not watching a commodity story. You're watching a confidence being measured in real time story. Gold doesn't rise because people like gold. Gold rises when people distrust systems. Take that to the bank, ladies and gentlemen. The dollar doesn't fall because America is weak. It falls when people think that America might become uncertain. That's the signal that I'm talking about. So let me introduce you to something that most people don't really think about. There are names in America that don't move votes, but they move markets. Boy, do they ever move markets, and they have been moving them, one name in particular, the last couple of days, ever since Trump mentioned the name. Names that represent institutional memory. People who have sat inside the rooms where money policy is actually made, okay? When someone like that enters into the public conversation, traders don't hear opinion. They hear possibility. And they start asking questions like, is this system about to change? Are we going to go through another change? Is the policy about to tighten up here? Is stability about to return? Maybe, I hope. Or is it going to be challenged? And that's why metals, precious metals, move. Because traders aren't reacting to a speech they heard. They're reacting to a future that they're trying to price in. Right? Let me give you an America First lesson here. A strong nation doesn't just defend its borders. A strong nation defends its institutions. Most certainly it does, because institutions are what tell the world this system will still be here tomorrow. And when you go to work, you expect your paycheck to clear, don't you? Well, I do. You expect the system to work. When you save for retirement, you expect the rules not to change overnight so you can see growth. That's not luck. That's called credibility. And credibility is built on three things: law, stability, and trust in leadership. If you remove any one of those and money starts looking for someone else safer to slip, you better believe it's going to do it. It's like having two keys to the same vault, right? And I want to go there, and I'm going to talk one layer deeper. Because behind the markets and behind interest rates, behind the debt, behind the deficit, there are really two institutions. I think most Americans think that these two institutions are the same thing, but they are not. The Treasury and the Federal Reserve. Now, here's the simple version. The Treasury belongs to the government. The Fed is independent of the government, okay? The Treasury spends, and the Fed controls the value of what's being spent. The Treasury controls the engine. The Fed controls the fuel. You can't run a country with only one of those things working either, can you? When Congress spends more than it collects, the Treasury issues bonds, okay? Those bonds have to be bought either by investors or by foreign governments, and sometimes indirectly by the Fed itself. If the world doesn't want to buy those bonds, interest rates will rise. And when interest rates go up, life gets more expensive for you and for me. Our mortgages, our car loans, our credit cards, small business financing, all of that. So the bond market isn't some Wall Street game that's being played. That's your monthly budget translated into numbers. Now, here's the delicate part. The Fed can counterbalance what the Treasury, the government, is doing. Or the Fed can amplify it. Lower rates make borrowing easier, right? Right. Higher rates make borrowing harder. And markets watch that relationship like a heartbeat. And the deeper truth is that money today isn't backed by gold like it was back in the days prior to Richard Nixon. Money today is backed by belief. Belief that contracts are going to be honored, and belief that laws are going to be enforced, and a belief that leadership won't change its mind in the middle of the game. You don't accept the dollar because of the paper that it's printed on. You accept the dollar because you trust the system behind it. And when that trust wobbles, people don't necessarily protest first. They reposition themselves some way financially. And narrative in the world, when narrative tries to become power every day, narrative is the thing that writes the headlines that want to trigger you purposefully. So we shift from money to something that's just as powerful, meaning. Facts are events, ladies and gentlemen. Meaning is a decision, okay? When a market moves, that's a fact. When Congress stalls, that also is a fact. When foreign leaders get together for a meeting, that's a fact. But the story that you hear about all of those facts is where influence lives. See, the human brain, as it turns out, doesn't store raw data very well, but it stores stories wonderfully. Heroes, villains, victims, saviors, stories. Once those roles get their assignment, most people stop looking for new information at all, and they start looking for confirmation. That's why the first headline often matters most and more than any last correction that we'll ever read. And the pattern that we should all be watching for when something complicated happens, the first narrative usually does three things. It personalizes the issue, it moralizes the outcome, and it simplifies the cause. So instead of, this conflict is between fiscal authority and monetary policy, instead of all of that, you hear, this person caused that problem. And once a system-level issue becomes a character-driven drama, accountability will shift. You stop asking, how does this work? And you start asking, who do I blame? That's why it matters in a republic. It matters that a republic runs on informed consent. If people don't understand how the system works, ladies and gentlemen, they can't defend it. They can only defend their side of a story. And when that happens, law becomes a background issue. The story becomes the battlefield. Now, so let's take all of this, money, institutions, and narrative, and move it onward out into the world where you and I are. Because here's the first truth of foreign policy as it applies to us. The world doesn't listen to what America says. It listens to what America does. Every action sends a signal. A budget that stalls, a market that flinches, a dollar that wobbles, a border that wobbles, a story that fractures, all of that, right? And none of those stay domestic, by the way. They don't just stay here. They travel. There are three languages in international politics: the language of strength, the language of consistency, and the language of attention. Strength is what you can do, okay? Consistency is what you always do. And attention is what you're focused on right now. And when America is divided internally, the world doesn't panic. It tests. It tests us. Pressure doesn't always come in the form of armies or tanks or missiles. Sometimes it comes in the form of shipping disruptions. Sometimes it comes in the form of regional conflicts or diplomatic gambits, whatever. Sudden talks, sudden warnings. Iran's getting very good at those warnings, aren't they? Well, those things are not random. Those are information probes. And those consequences that result don't say, they don't stay overseas. The consequences show up here in terms of energy prices, insurance costs, supply chains, grocery bills. And that's why global pressure is never just a foreign story. It's an economic prequel, a preamble, a pre-story. And the America First anchor that we have to believe in terms of all of this is that a sovereign nation doesn't just protect its territory. A sovereign nation defends its reputation and resolve. Because once reputation fades, challenges don't get smaller. Challenges get multiplied. So let me tie it all together. Every nation runs on three indivisible systems: money, law, and meaning. Okay? Money tells people what their work is worth. Okay? Law tells people what behavior is expected. And meaning tells people why all of this matters. If law becomes unclear, money becomes nervous. And if money becomes unstable, meaning becomes cynical. If meaning collapses, the laws of the land become just a box of suggestions. The United States is different from most nations in history, not because that we're different people, that we have different DNA or any of that nonsense. America is different because it was built not around a king, not around a tribe, not around any kind of single identity. America was built on an idea that people could govern themselves under law. So that means that legitimacy here doesn't flow down from power located in Washington, D.C. It flows up from the consent of the people. And consent isn't just given at the ballot box either, ladies and gentlemen. It's renewed every single day when people choose to follow the rules that they could technically break. So let me end this in a quiet place, a quieter place than what the headlines are that we read every day. There's one institution in the United States that we have not spoken about yet today. That institution is you. Some people call it we the people. A law does not enforce itself, and a constitution doesn't defend itself. A republic doesn't preserve itself. People do all of that. The real danger to a free society isn't conflict, not even close. The real danger to us is apathy. Apathetic people don't ask how money works. They don't ask how laws get passed, and they don't ask how foreign policy touches their lives. They just react in some form or fashion. And a population that only reacts is very easy to steer. And so the quiet challenge that I want you to think about today, don't just watch politics, ladies and gentlemen. Study it. Don't just share the headlines that you see pop up on your feed. Question the headlines. And don't just pick a side. Understand the system. Because when enough people begin to do that, something very powerful begins to happen. The system stops belonging to the insiders, the swamp creatures, the rhinos, and the system starts belonging again, as it should, to the people for whom it was built. If you like this content and you want more of it, please head over to YouTube, ladies and gentlemen, and subscribe to my YouTube channel, The Right Side Doug Billings. At The Right Side Doug Billings over on YouTube, ladies and gentlemen. Subscribe. It's free. Subscribe. Click the red bell so that you get notified every time I drop new content. Because after all, as I always say, ladies and gentlemen, we are in this thing together. Believe it. For the Republic. Cheers.
The Right Side with Doug Billings.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to the set of my show, Doug Billings. Hey, my good friends at EMP Shield, that's electromagnetic pulse, in case you're from Raytown, Missouri. Electromagnetic pulse could wipe out your home electrical system, could wipe out your vehicle. And thanks to the radical liberal agenda that was put forth under Administrator Biden and Vice Pretender Harris, there are lots of people in this country who want to do us harm. And maybe an EMP device would be their chosen weapon. But EMP Shield gives you a device that can protect you. This little baby here goes on your home outlets, a computer, a router, whatever you want to protect. And then they also have a larger model like this. You can still hold it in the palm of your hand that goes on your vehicle battery so that you can get out of trouble from point A to point B. EMPshield.com. Promo code Doug, ladies and gentlemen. Save yourself. Save your property. EMPshield.com. Promo code Doug. We're in this together, folks. Believe it. For the Republic. Cheers.
The Right Side with Doug Billings.